Hello there. I'm here today to talk to you about the youth of America and explain to you why Gen Z is the worst generation ever. Well, you may be thinking to yourself, this is nothing new. Every generation has complaints about the next generation, kind of like how the baby boomers had complaints about millennials. They called them lazy, said they were kind of sloppy, and they liked to listen to silly hip hop music and they dressed funny. This really isn't that kind of a thing. My complaints about Gen Z are really nothing like that at all. My complaints about Gen Z are that they're a bunch of Holocaust deniers that support terrorism and like to have fun little trends on TikTok where they look up Osama bin Laden's letter to America, where he explained why it is that he attacked America on September 11th, and then they come to the conclusion that he was completely correct, that he was right in his reasoning for attacking America in the September 11th terrorist attacks. Now, you may be thinking, well, gee whiz, Henry, that sounds a little extreme. That can't really be true. You're just being kind of hyperbolic about some of these protests and things you've seen. Well, let's go over some polling data real quick. First, we have this Harvard Harris poll that was done after the October 7th Hamas terrorist attack that killed 1,200 people in Israel. It was a pretty simple question. It just asked them, do you support Hamas or do you support Israel? Now, you would think there would be overwhelming support for Israel in the aftermath of a massive terrorist attack that killed 1,200 people. But no, what we got was from ages 18 to 24, 50% of them supported Hamas, the terrorist group that committed the attack. And then a further 31%, ages 25 to 34, also supported Hamas. Those are offensive numbers. Those are terrifying numbers. And you might say, well, they didn't really give them an option to just support Palestine. It was kind of a binary thing. Maybe that explains it. Maybe they just didn't want to choose Israel. Well, let's take a look at this other set of poll questions from the same poll. Here you can see that they asked them if they thought the terrorist attack that killed 1,200 people was justified by Palestinian grievances. 60% of the kids 18 to 24 said they thought it was justified. 60%. And then, if you look over at the other side here, it becomes even more horrifying. Because the other question it asked them was whether or not they thought the attack was genocidal. 66% said that they thought it was. Now, if you subtract the 40% that said they thought the attack was not justified, that leaves you with 26% that thought the attack was genocidal and also it was justified. That's horrifying. Oh, but don't worry. Don't worry. It gets worse. It gets even worse. This is a YouGov poll that asked whether or not they agreed with the statement that the Holocaust was a myth. 20% ages 18 to 29 agreed and said yes, they thought the Holocaust was a myth. They didn't think it happened. That's horrible. Only 51% said that they disagreed with the statement and thought that the Holocaust actually did happen. 30% said they neither agreed or disagreed. They just didn't know. So that's 50% ages 18 to 29 either thought the Holocaust was a myth or they weren't sure. That's pretty bad. That's pretty stinking bad. So, what happened here? How did this happen? Did all of the kids just become neo Nazis? Or is this just the result of progressive DEI ideology and its consequences? I would submit that it's the latter. Now, there's many reasons I think this is the case. One very recent example is that they just dragged a bunch of these presidents of elite universities before a congressional hearing to ask them questions about anti Semitism on their college campuses. And they asked them whether or not calling for the genocide of Jews was a violation of their bullying policy. Now, just think about that for a second. Why would they even have to ask that question? That's a hell of a question to have to ask presidents of elite universities in America. Is calling for the genocide of Jewish people a violation of your bullying policy? That by itself is a very disturbing thing. And their answers were horrifying. Their answers were horrifying. Their answers were to just not really answer the question and essentially say it kind of depends. It depends on the context. It depends on the context that they're calling for the genocide of Jewish people. We'd have to know the context before we could determine whether or not that violates our bullying policies. Now, mind you, these are not like free speech warriors that are just like standing behind the First Amendment and saying anything that's legal to say, we're cool with it. No, 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 no. One of the presidents was the president of Harvard, which ranked the lowest as far as free speech protections go. So I don't think that they're just trying to uphold like First Amendment values here. Because these are universities where it would be a violation of their bullying policy to wear a t shirt that says there are only two genders. We're talking about universities that will expel students if they find out that they said a racial slur when they were 16. But when it comes to calling for the genocide of Jews, that's context dependent. That's kind of a tough one. Sort of depends. So, what are we going to do? What are we going to do with this generation of terrorists supporting Holocaust deniers? Well, I had an idea. I thought maybe we just cut our losses, reshuffle the deck, load them all up on boats, go dump them off in Antarctica, where they will almost certainly freeze to death, and then just try and restart. Just try and restart, raise a new generation, maybe without pushing all of the crazy progressive DEI stuff on them, and just try to get it right this time. So they don't come out believing all of this insane garbage. Now, you might say, well, Henry, hold up here. That sounds kind of extreme. It sounds kind of extreme to be calling for the mass death of a large group of people. That even kind of sounds genocidal, Henry. To which I say,
it depends on the context.
You're just frightened. You think that we'll corrupt your kids if our agenda goes unchecked. Funny, just this once, you're correct.
I need everyone to stop.
We'll convert your children.
It's literally 2 pages. Go
Happens
read
bit by
a letter to
bit,
America.
quietly and subtly.
And please come back here and just let me know what you think. I feel like I'm going through like an
You can
existential
keep him from
crisis right now,
disco.
and a lot of people are.
Warn about San
So I just need someone else to be
Francisco.
feeling this too.
Make him wear
I need
pleated
you to
pants,
stop
we
reading.
don't
Go
care.
read a letter to America. It is literally.
We'll
the
convert your
craziest thing I've ever read.
children.
And while I can't say that I'm that surprised,
We'll make them tolerant
I'm pretty
and
shocked.
fair.
So go read it and.
At first I didn't get why you'd be so scared of us turning your children into accepting, caring people, but I see now why you'd have a problem with that.
Just like you worried, they'll change their group of friends. You won't approve of where they go at night to protest. Oh, and you'll be disgusted when they start finding things online that you've kept far from their sight. Like information. Guess what? You'll still be alright. We'll convert your children, yes we will.
Go read it, Letter to
Reaching
America.
one and
Seriously,
all,
go read
there's
it.
really no
Type
escaping
Letter to America in
it.
Google,
Cause
whatever you
even
use, and come
grandma
right back.
likes RuPaul.
Because
the
this
world's
makes
getting
a lot more sense.
kinder.
It explains so much.
Gen Z's gayer than
And I guarantee
Grindr.
it's going
Learn to love, learn to
blow
vogue, face
mind.
your fate. We'll convert your children. Someone's gotta teach them not to hate. We're coming for them. We're coming for your children. We're coming for them.
I read Osama bin Laden's letter to America.
The way this letter is going viral right now is giving you the greatest sense of relief. If you're Muslim and you've lived in the US since 9/11, you know more truth than the typical citizen. Now it's all coming to light because of Palestine. It's